Let's say your unweighted academic GPA is a 3.7 on a 4 scale, and your weighted is a 3.9 on a 5 scale. 3.7 on a 4 looks better than a 3.9 on a 5. So here to begin with, what we're going to be doing is topics for the day. Again, we're going through the senior year calendar. We're going to talk a little bit about what colleges are looking for in students, creating a balanced list, decisions, essays. I'm going to take over the questions, and then we're going to go ahead and go through the common application overview. Okay. So typically senior year calendar, September starting now, I know we're at the end of it, but if you have not determined your fall testing schedule yet, be sure to do that, okay? I know SAT and ACT tests are still continuing to be canceled due to COVID, okay? But you're gonna wanna go ahead and see what upcoming test dates are if you are planning on taking that. I know we do have a lot of students that are not because schools are test optional or test blind again with COVID. Okay. But if you are planning on taking it, then I do go ahead and I recommend that you go on to ACT, go on to SAT, see what their upcoming test dates are and get registered for those. All right. Attending virtual college fairs is always a good idea as well. Campuses are open again, which is great. So you should be able to go and actually visit the campus in person. Okay. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I do highly recommend it. It's always more beneficial being on campus and seeing what the school is like with students being on campus taking classes. I know it was difficult for students over summer when you guys were visiting and nobody was there, or you were doing self-guided tours rather than doing a tour with an actual admissions officer. So a lot of schools have opened to back up for visitors. If you do want to schedule guided tours where you can attend like an information session, as well as actually go through the campus with somebody, you're able to do that on the college's specific website. There would be like a visit us section or schedule a guided tour. So I recommend doing that if you can. Okay. You should also be finalizing your college list. Okay. And what I mean by 3-tiered is we want to make sure that you guys do have a balanced school list. And that's where our safety core and reach schools come into play. And I'll be discussing that a little bit later on today as well. Okay. It's really important for you to determine if you're applying early action or early decision. Reason for that is the earlier deadlines. Okay. So for early action, early decision, typically you're looking around November 1st or November 15th, but there are some colleges that do have an October 15th early action or early decision deadline. Okay. So make sure you are going through your complete list of colleges, looking at what their application options are, and then making that note on your calendar so that you have your essays done in enough time. Okay. When it comes to the common application, you do have your main common app essay, but there are a good amount of colleges that have supplementals as well. So that's one thing that you need to figure out when you're determining early action, early decision is how many essays, additional essays am I writing, okay? And then you do need to request and remind your teachers for recommendation letters. This is something that we had talked to our students about spring of last year. So teachers get really busy, especially now that you guys are back in person again. Their schedule is a little bit busier than it was maybe when they were doing virtual with you. So you need to remind your teachers about the recommendation letters. The deadline that I've given to our students is October 15th. Like your teachers are going to ask you, when do you need them by? I do recommend October 15th because again, if you are applying early action or early decision to any schools, you're going to want your recommendation letter in enough time. Okay. For those of you that may be applying to just all regular decision schools and maybe they're in January or February, I would give your teachers a deadline of December 1st, because realistically, you should have all of your applications in over winter break. Okay. So with the recommendation letters, again, you're going to want to go ahead and talk to at least 2 academic teachers. So they should be from core subjects. There's a little bit more flexibility this year with regards to the teachers that you are getting them from for the year, just because of COVID. Like, you guys were virtual pretty much all of last year. Your teachers didn't get to know you very well. Typically, letters are coming from junior or even senior year teachers. But if you were to even look at your sophomore teachers, that would be fine. I do think that ninth grade is a little bit too far back for a teacher to really like get to know you unless you've had them for ninth grade and you're having them again next year. Okay. And then when I say core subjects, I mean English, math, history, or science. I don't normally recommend a foreign language unless that's something that you're planning on majoring in. So just be sure that you do speak with core teachers. And then some colleges do allow another or personal recommendation. And this varies for the colleges on what they actually allow. So some may say they allow a coach, an employer, a clergy member. Others will say it's just an arts teacher, for example. So there are a lot of different options. You're going to want to see what the colleges you are applying to allow. Okay. But I do recommend that you have an other or a personal write a recommendation letter if you have that, just because I think it's going to add to your application, especially when schools are test optional this year and a lot of you are not submitting scores. Okay. You want to continue working on your essays, personal statements, supplementals. You will find that if you have a good amount of private schools on your list, they tend to have supplemental questions. It could be a simple thing from only 50 words to some even have 1,000-word essays. Okay, so make sure you are working on your essays now and getting those finalized. Okay. So this upcoming month, this is when you're really going to be focusing on filling out your applications. Okay. So you do need to make sure that you get a copy of your transcript from your counselor at school. You can also pull this up from your Student Connect account or Aries or Schoology, whatever you have. You don't need an official copy for purposes of filling out the applications themselves. But they are going to ask that you type in every course you've taken and every grade you've received. So have your transcripts in front of you. It's important that it's accurate. Okay. Again, completing the final draft of your essays, especially if you are doing any type of early action. And then there are some colleges that would allow you to interview with them. Okay. So you want to go onto the admissions website for the colleges that you are applying to and see if they give you the opportunity to schedule an interview. This could be virtual again because of COVID, but there are some that are going back in person. Maybe they'll meet you at a coffee shop. You're just going to speak with like a local alumni, for example. Okay. So go ahead and go onto the websites for all of your schools and see if they are allowing interviews. Okay. I always recommend that you send thank you notes to the interviewers afterwards as well. Okay. A handwritten note would be best rather than just an email. Okay. Next, so for November and December, if you are actually reporting test scores and you want those to be considered in your application, you do need to send official score reports to the colleges. Okay. Some websites will specifically state that they allow self-reporting only. And what that means is when you're in the Common Application itself, as well as you've seen Cal State, the Common Application is going to have a section for testing where you need to report your SAT or your ACT, your AP exams. Okay. So if you are going to have the colleges consider your scores, you're self-reporting them, but they are going to want an official copy. Okay. And you just do that through the testing website. So for ACT, it's actstudent.org. And for SAT, it's through College Board. All right. You're going to want to request transcripts and secondary school reports be sent to the colleges as well. So this is typically done through your high school counselor or even your Naviance program if your school uses that. So if you are not sure how the request needs to be done, speak with your high school counselor right away. Again, if you have Naviance, you're usually doing it through there because it's linked to your Common App, but a lot of schools don't use that particular program. So talk to your high school counselor and see what they need from you. Normally, it's just a list of all of your colleges so they know what needs to be done. Okay. And then you're also submitting applications at this time and all supporting documentation. And what I mean by supporting documentation is I mean official test score reports, any school reports that your counselor needs to send, recommendation letters. Okay. So just make sure that when you are submitting your app, the supporting documents are going in too, because your application is not going to be considered complete until they have everything on file. Then they can begin reviewing it. All right. Okay. So January, again, submitting applications. This should be the last month realistically that you are submitting applications. Like I said, I normally recommend that students have all of their apps in over winter break. That way you can just come back to spring semester and enjoy all the senior activities that they're going to have for you guys. Okay. You do want to follow up with the colleges to make sure that your application file is complete. So again, making sure that all documentation has been received. When you apply to the colleges, you will get a confirmation email that your application has been submitted, but you are also going to receive an email where they want you to create a portal that is specific to their college. Okay. This is really important that you do that. This is their way of communicating with you to let you know if they have everything that they need and if your file is complete. Okay. A lot of times through the college portals that you create, it's also how they let you know about the admissions decision. Not every school is mailing out a big packet to let you know whether or not you've been accepted or denied. Sometimes it's by email and sometimes it's through the college portals. So be sure that you are creating these as soon as you get the email from the school. It's typically about a week or two after you've submitted your application that they're going to ask you to create a portal. Okay. You do want to make sure that your high school counselor has the complete list of colleges so that they can send any mid-year reports. So if you're applying in the months of November and December, you typically do not have your fall semester grades yet. So colleges are going to be asking for mid-year reports. They do want to make sure that you're passing your classes and you're doing well. Students' lists do change a lot. Okay, so from now until January, maybe you take away and you add an additional 5 schools. It's really important you make sure your counselor has that updated list whenever you make any changes so all documents can be sent. Okay. Scholarship search. So what I mean by this is there are different private outside scholarships that you can look into as well. Okay. There's like Coca-Cola, there's Jack Cook Kent, there's Ronald Reagan. You can use websites like CapEx, for example, finaid.org, where you can actually go through and search for scholarships that you can apply for. Okay, so I do recommend that you do start looking at scholarships now and you're aware of the deadlines. They do vary. They can be anywhere from November to even like April of next year. So start your search with scholarships for private and outside and begin applying to those when you can. Okay. And then I do recommend that you also write a little thank you note to any of the recommenders that took the time to write letters for your applications. Okay. Again, it should be a handwritten note, not an email. Okay. Next, we have submitting final applications. The reason I have this down for February and March is there are some students that need to wait until they have fall semester grades because maybe we're trying to get a GPA boost before you actually submit. So if that's the case, we could be waiting until February to submit if your fall semester doesn't end until January. Okay. So again, completing your scholarship applications. And then you do want to speak with your counselor about the Cal Grant. Okay. So what they're doing typically in the month of February is your counselor is going to give you a form, which is a Cal Grant GPA verification form, and you need to sign it. And you need to return it to your counselor so they can send it to the Cal Grant Commission. Okay. And what this is it's for California schools only, Cal States, UCs, and privates. And the Cal Grant is awarded based off of family income as well as GPA. Okay. So in order to be eligible for a Cal Grant, you need to have a Cal Grant GPA above a 3.0, but then there's also that income bracket. Okay. So speak with your counselor. If you don't hear anything about this, by March, you do need to speak with your counselor and tell them that you want to go ahead and submit the Cal Grant GPA verification form. Okay. And then you'll be registering for AP exams as well. Right. The month of April. So you're going to be participating in admitted student events. So some colleges will let you know of their decisions on a rolling basis. So you could apply and maybe hear back in 2 weeks. Whereas like UCs, for example, typically you're applying November 30th, the final deadline, but you're really not hearing back until March. So you should hear back from all of your schools by the very end of March. Okay. This gives you about a month or so to be able to go and visit maybe some of your top choices before you make your final decision. So they will have admitted student events on campus, or they should be on campus this year since they're back in session, but some of them may be virtual. Again, we'll have to see how that goes. Okay. Respond if you wish to remain on the wait list. I'm going to touch on the wait list a little bit later on as well. And then you do have to make your final decision and respond to the school by May 1st. Okay. That is the National College Commit Day, May 1st. So mark your calendars. Do not wait until the last minute in case there's any type of problems with the internet and the portal. I would recommend that you're making your decision like at least 5 days before. Try not to wait until the very last day, because if you miss that deadline, they're not going to allow you to commit. They're going to give your spot to students that are on the wait list. Okay, so May 1st, mark your calendars, highlight it, circle it, whatever you need to do. Do not miss that deadline. Okay. At this time, you'll also be putting in housing requests, and you're going to be working on your housing applications. Okay. And then you do want to notify the counselor of your final decision where you're going to be attending, because the colleges are going to need a final transcript from your school as well. Okay. So again, this is to make sure that you are passing your classes and you're doing well. A lot of students think that they can slack off in their senior year. Okay. I've had students do this before where they're like, oh, I've been admitted. It doesn't matter. I don't need to focus on my grades. And then they go and get a D in the class, and a D is not considered passing for college, you guys. So if you're getting a D in a class and they get this final transcript, they can actually take away the admissions decision. Okay. So please do not get senioritis. I know it's tough with COVID and everything going on, but you need to focus on your academics and you need to stay on top of it, because if you do have a severe drop in your grades, the college can rescind the admissions offer. Okay. Last here is notify recommenders of your decision. So it's always nice to let them know they took the time to write the letters for you. They're genuinely interested in what your decision is going to be. So you should let them know. Okay. Just some things to get organized here. All right. I like to have things like written out in a binder that I could like really touch and feel, rather than just something being strictly online. Okay. So I always recommend students have like a 3-ring binder. You're going to have a calendar. So of the entire month, you can write out specific deadlines that you have, whether it's when you need your essays to be completed for a final review, when you need to remind your teachers of rec letters, when the actual application itself is due. So create a calendar for the next few months and write down any important deadlines that you have, and go through each day and just cross it off to make sure you're staying on track with everything. Okay. So there's a lot of different things that you need to be aware of. There's application types. So does the school use the Common App, the UC, the Cal State, their own app? Are they Coalition? Are they Apply Texas? There's so many different things that you have to try to remember, which is why I like you guys to try to keep it organized if you can. Okay. Number of required essays. Again, you're going to have your main Common App essay, but then you may have supplementals. You're going to have your UCs. You're going to have Apply Texas. There's going to be Coalition. So you want to go through now, make a sheet and say, okay, here's all the essays that are required for each school that I'm applying to. Okay. And then whether or not they require letters of recommendations. Cal State's UCs, they're not going to look at recommendation letters, but some of the Common App, Coalition, Apply Texas schools, they will look at some recommendation letters. And is it academic or is it personal? So make note of all these things. Okay. Again, making a checklist of supporting documents. This is really important. Your application is not considered complete unless they have everything on file that they need in order to review your app, okay? I've seen issues with students before where I'd mentioned you have to create the college portals. They will let you know if they're missing anything. If they're going to give you a deadline, okay, this is when we need your official test score sent to us, or this is when we need your recommendation letter sent to us. If you miss that deadline and you don't send the information to the colleges, they could drop your entire application. Okay, so it's important that you're getting everything sent to them so they can begin reviewing it. Okay. Within this binder, I also recommend that you put down all your portal usernames and passwords for the colleges that you applied to. You're going to find that you're creating a lot of different passwords for your applications, but you're going to have a lot of different passwords for your portals. If you're applying to 10 schools, you may have 10 portals that you have to create. And every website is different with what their password requirements are. Some are uppercase, lowercase, number, symbol. So you don't want to have to reset that every time because you forget what it is. So make sure that you are going through and you're making note of what your usernames and passwords are. Okay. So early action, early decision. I know we talked about this and we need to determine which ones you're going to be doing. Okay. This is the difference between them. So early decision is a binding decision. If you are admitted, you are going to be attending that school. Okay. Typically you can just apply to a one school early decision as that's all, but some may have exceptions to this. And that's where that information can be found on the college's website in the admissions section. All right. So some schools may say you can apply to us early decision, but you're also allowed to apply. Let's say it's a private school you're applying early decision to. They may say you could apply to public schools early decision. Okay, as long as it's not another binding. So you could do one school early decision and maybe two early action. So you'll have to look at the exceptions that the colleges do allow. Some are strictly you're just applying to our school early and that's it. Okay. Once you have been admitted, you are expected to withdraw your other applications. And again, you're committing to the school. Okay. So the reason I put this benefit to the college is obviously they're filling up their class. They know what students are going to be committing to their school, because if you're doing early decision, you get in, you're going, right? You do not get to wait until May 1st and hear back from all of your other schools. You're going to be going to your early decision school if you're admitted. I don't normally recommend that you do this unless you're able to tell us this is 100% my top choice school. I've always wanted to go here. I have very few students that do early decision each year, maybe one or two, and that's it. Now for early action, this one is non-binding. So for early action is you're applying that typically November 1st or November 15th. You are going to find out over winter break whether or not you've been admitted. Usually you're hearing back around maybe between like December 15th, December 20th. Okay. But you do have time to hear back from all of your other schools. So for early action, regardless of you being admitted over winter break, you don't actually need to commit to the college until May 1st, which is the final decision deadline. Okay. There typically aren't restrictions for early action specifically. If you have 10 schools that allow early action and you want to apply to all 10, you could. But you do have to remember that you are going to be writing extra essays for a good amount of schools. Okay. Early is not always better. Single choice restrictive early action. You'll see this for some schools. Stanford is one, Princeton is another one. You are not required to attend if you are admitted. It's non-binding, but you are restricted from applying to other schools early. So even though it's not early decision, it still is either a single choice or restrictive. So you have to determine, am I going to do this school early action only, or am I going to maybe apply to a few? Okay. Rolling, priority, and regular. You're going to hear this as well. So rolling admission, you will notice on some of your schools that their deadline may not be until July or August of next year. That's typically they're on a rolling admission, which means that they're going to continue accepting applications until their class is filled. I still recommend that you apply early, so by winter break if you can. All right. Don't wait until the very end of spring to apply. Priority admission. So this is where they do have a specific deadline that they want you to submit your application by. It's priority. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hear back earlier, but you could be considered for more scholarship money, for example. Okay. So for a priority, they do have that deadline. You should be meeting it, but it's possible that they can still consider your application after until they fill their class. And then regular admission is just they have a strict deadline and that's what you need to meet. This is going to be the case for like Cal States and UCs, for example. Their deadline is November 30th. It's not rolling. It's not priority. That's just their strict deadline and you need to meet it. Okay. Who should apply early? So if you have an idea of where you really wish to attend and you're typically in the top 25% of where applicants have been in the previous year, then I recommend that you do early action, okay? You need to be happy with what your academic standing is. If you are submitting test scores and you're not happy with your scores and you're not within the range of where students are admitted, you shouldn't be doing early action yet, okay? So again, you need to be happy with your academics, with your GPA, your test scores, and your essays need to be completed. I have a lot of students that are like, well, I want to apply early just because I want to hear back, but their essays are not good. Okay. You need to have the essays be as best as they possibly could be before deciding, hey, I'm just going to apply early because I want to hear back earlier. Okay. It's not going to help your chances if you're doing that. Okay. So that's why we say early isn't always better. There are some schools where there's a drastic difference in students that are being admitted for early versus regular. One example is Lewis and Clark. I think it jumps up your chances of being admitted by about 19%. That's huge. Typically, you're not finding that huge of a difference. Okay, but 18% for Lewis and Clark is, right? So just keep that in mind. Early is not always going to be the better choice for every student. Now, creating this list, this is where your list is coming from. We're determining early action, early decision. Okay. So the balanced list, this is something that's really important to us because we want to make sure that you have options and you're being admitted to a good amount of schools. We don't want it to be you've now applied to 10 reach schools and one core, and realistically, you may only be getting into the core school and you don't love it. So it's important that you really do have a good balance. This is what our list typically looks like for our students. Again, it can vary for everybody, but we typically like to see 2 safety, 8 core, and 2 reach schools. And I gave kind of the percentage of like of your chances of being admitted based off of reach, core, and safety. Sometimes I have students that are applying to 25 schools, and that's because 15 of their schools are reaches. For them, they would rather give it a shot than say, well, I wish I would have applied and now it's too late. So if you do want to apply to more than 2 reach schools, we have no problem with that. We want you guys to shoot, try to reach your goals, but we do need to be realistic and have those cores and those safeties also. Okay. When it comes to merit aid, you are more likely to get more merit aid from a school where you'd be in that top 20% of their admitted students. Merit aid is free money from the college based off of your academics. Typically, this was GPA and test scores in the past. A lot of schools are test optional. So they're primarily focusing on GPA and extracurriculars when they're determining merit aid right now. Now, that's one reason why we do tell some students it would be a good idea to take the SAT or the ACT. If you're typically a very strong test taker, having a high score can help you when being determined for eligible merit aid. Okay, so if you do very well and you're applying to a lot of like out of state or private schools, it would be a good idea to take an SAT or ACT because it could help with the merit aid, right? Now, after you've applied, there are specific decisions that these colleges are going to come out with. Typically, that's you've been admitted, okay? There's a provisional admit. This is usually we are provisionally admitting you, but we want to see what your fall semester grades are before we make our final decision. Okay. So they like it, they want to admit you, but they also want to make sure that you're not slacking off and you're doing well. Okay. Then we've got the deny, just you have not been admitted to the school. There's waitlist. Okay. So waitlist is, we do like you, but we're accepting other students right now. And typically with the waitlist, you are not being taken off until maybe June or July. Reason for that is they want to hear back from all of the students that have committed by that May 1st deadline that I mentioned. And then they're going to see how many spots they have available for students that can be taken off the waitlist. So if you are waitlisted at a school, you still need to commit to another college by that May 1st deadline. Okay. And then there are some schools that would do a deferred enrollment. And what I mean by that is they have accepted you, but they're not accepting you for the fall semester. They're going to have you start in the spring instead. So there is that option. Okay. If you're waitlisted, what you're going to want to do is you want to respond to them right away, let them know that you would still like to remain on the wait list. So there's usually a form that you fill out or a box that you have to check off. Okay. And then some schools will allow you to provide them with new information that they didn't have in your original application. So that could be an updated GPA. If you took SAT or ACT again after applying and you did better, you can go ahead and indicate that. Maybe you participated in an internship. Perhaps you finished your Gold Award or your Eagle. You can go ahead and submit new information to them if you wanted to go ahead and do that. Okay. Question that we get from students is, can you appeal a decision? Yes, you can. It's important that the appeal is coming from you and not your parents. Okay. It shouldn't be your parents appealing that you're a great student and you should be admitted to the school. It needs to come from you directly. Okay. And this is typically a letter that you are going to be writing and sending to the school. Okay. The appeal has to include any new information that was not submitted in the original application, because they're not going to appeal a decision if it's the same information that they already looked over. So again, it would be any new test scores, maybe new activities, new awards that you've participated in. And then within that appeal is you want to talk to them about why they're a good fit for you and what you're going to bring to the university as well. So an appeal can definitely be done. But it does need to provide new information. They're not going to change their decision if they're looking over the same thing that they did in the application itself. Okay. So some things that you could be doing right now is you want to make sure that you've met all admissions requirements. Okay. You want to make sure you've done the A through G courses. Schools are going to require 4 years of English. It could be 3 years of math, foreign language. There are some schools that specifically state they require a student take math in their senior year. We've had students where they've done really well in their math courses. They've excelled at it. They said, you know what, I don't want to take math in my senior year, but there are colleges that require it. So you need to make sure that you go through and you see what the requirements are for each school. Okay. Because if you don't meet the admissions requirements, you're going to get a straight denial from them. Okay. Again, asking teachers to write the letters of recommendation. This should have already been done, but if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, you want to go ahead and speak to them right away. Okay. You're going to be working on essays. So Common App, UC, individual, honors college essays. You're going to be scheduling interviews with the colleges. You're going to visit if you can. Otherwise, you can do virtual tours. And then the other thing that we do recommend you do is you request information from the colleges and begin contacting department heads. Okay. The reason this is helpful is because not only do you get some good information about the school to figure out really what they have to offer and if you like their program, but within the supplemental questions for some of the essays, they're going to say, why are you applying to our school? So if you can touch on the fact that you've spoken with a department head or a chair or even a director of undergraduate study, and you can provide examples as to why you're really applying to this school, that's going to help them when they're making their decision. Okay. They want the student that has done their homework and really knows what the school has to offer, and they're going to take advantage of it. They don't want the student who answers the why our school by saying, well, you have my major, you're in a good location, and you're a core school. You need to be very specific and show them you've done your homework. Okay. Okay. So next we do have essays. So I'm just going to go over a couple slides here, and then I'm going to have Rob speak to you guys. Okay. So some of the things, like, what is the essay or the personal statement for? You'll find that colleges have different terms. One is just, here's our essay. Others, it's a personal statement. They're essentially the same thing. Okay. So it provides the college with information that can't be found anywhere else on your application. Your application, you're reporting your courses, your grades, your extracurricular activities, your test scores, but they don't really get to know who you are by just reading over that information. You're not really sharing any personal information with them. So the essay is your opportunity to tell them, this is who I am. This is why you're going to want me at your school. Okay. So it's going to help them determine if you are a good fit. And then it is the one place on the application where you could self-advocate. You could brag a little bit and tell them about yourself. Okay. They see the awards and the activities, but they don't get to hear it directly from you. And this is your opportunity to do that. Okay. Now, your essay, when we're talking about what it should do, is you want to be able to tell the college what your goals are, like what are your values, what are your passions. Okay, so they'll see your activities, but they don't know what you're really passionate about. A lot of students do volunteer work. What is it that you enjoy and why do you do it? Okay. And when we say it should show, not tell, what we mean by that is you need to provide us with examples. A lot of the essay students can say, well, this event made me this and this and this, but you're just telling us that. Anybody can say that. You need to back it up with specific examples of what you've done and how that particular event maybe changed your life. Okay. And then we do mention drawing the reader into a narrative. You want them to be excited to read this essay. Okay. You want to catch their attention from the very beginning. Things that you should avoid, okay, potentially controversial subject. So maybe you're applying to a religious school, and for the Common App, where the essay where it's like when you challenged a belief or idea. If you're applying to a Christian university, you don't want to tell the college that I don't believe in God. Okay, so you have to be careful with some of the things that you're writing about, because your common application essay does go to every common application school. You can't pick and choose and change your topics multiple times. Okay, writing what you think they want to hear, overt cleverness, overused topics. This is a very common one that I see from students. So the big game, sports injuries, I hurt myself. I worked really hard. I came back. I won the championship the following year. They read thousands and thousands of those essays. You want to stand out. Okay. Be careful with trying to just provide shock value. You don't want to sound unnaturally intellectual, and you don't want to just use the thesaurus. Okay. A lot of students are like, well, when they're prepping for SAT, they're going to try to use all these words that they're learning, but it actually isn't the way that you would write or you would speak. So you need to be careful with that as well. Okay. So next I'm going to have Rob go ahead and talk about essays with you guys for about 10, 15 minutes or so. Okay. And then after that, I will go through, while he's doing that, I'm going to look at some questions that you guys have, and then we're going to go ahead and go through the actual common application together. Okay. So here you are, Rob.
Thanks, Lindsay. Cool. Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Rob Schwartz. I am also a counselor here at PCG. My task today is to share some information with you about the essay process itself. You got some great tips and ideas from Lindsay, and I want to delve just a bit further into a couple of topics. The first is, expect that these essays are going to take time. I have a lot of students who are like, I know I've got to write, 20 or 25 or 30 essays. I'll get it done. No, that's probably not just going to happen. The average student is not going to write one draft, send it to me for review, and I'm going to go, oh, you're basically Christ-like in your writing skills, and you're perfect, and I don't have to change anything. This happened twice, in case you're wondering. I've been doing this 11 years, and twice a student has submitted a Common App main essay. I've read it and I've just been blown away and been like, you're awesome. Twice. For the hundreds and hundreds of other students, not so much. You should plan on 2 to 4 drafts as being completely within the realm of normal. So do the math. If you've got 30 essays to write and you end up with an average of 3 drafts, 90 drafts. How much time do you need to write 90 drafts? A lot. So this needs to take time, which means if you haven't already started, you are behind. You need to let the writing process unfold. It's going to be natural in its unfolding, which means you're not always just going to sit down at your computer and your fingers are just going to start tapping. Sometimes there's a little writer's block there. Sometimes you get distracted by other things and you can't focus on what you want to say. Ultimately, Lindsay made a great point in expressing to you that this is your opportunity to tell your story. Don't overthink it. Get the raw materials onto a sheet of paper or onto the computer screen, a Word document or a Google document. Let the emotional part of you come through, at least to a certain degree. Let's figure out who you are and what you care about and why you care about it. That idea of show, don't tell. The student who is telling is saying, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. That's great. One problem. You already told us that in another section of your application. Remember, Lindsay said, this is new information that we do not have elsewhere. So telling us that you did these activities is fine if you provide the context. Why did you do them? How did you do them? Why were they important to your development? How did they help you figure out what you wanted to do in the future? Why were they impactful in your life or the lives of people around you? Those are the things that tend to stand out in these messages. Also, just from a perspective of what it's like to be on the other side of this activity, if you're reading at a competitive school for, let's say, a Common App school, you're probably reading 25 or 30 of these applications in a day. That means you're reading 25 or 30 Common Application main essays, and then let's say it's a school that has 2 supplementary questions. It means you're reading 50 or 60 more essays. It's a lot to take in, which means you do need to find interesting and creative ways to stand out. It can't just be, let me just tell you a quick story. It has to be something that's truly meaningful. I can tell you that if I'm reading 10 essay drafts from my students, there will be one essay that I will be really excited about. I will get done reading and I will literally interrupt my wife who is grading for her college. And I will say, I have to read this essay to you. And it's a really fun or really interesting or really heartfelt story that you can't not get excited about. You can't not fall in love with that student. You can't say in your mind, damn, I'd love to have a kid like that on my college campus. That's your goal. It's not about how big the accomplishment, it's about letting a complete stranger in and get to know who you are and understand the context of your life situation. That's important. There are 2 Common App essays that I want to take a moment to just quickly review with you to give you a couple of other perspectives that I think are important. The second essay prompt in the Common App says the following: the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? First thing I want to tell you is this is a very common prompt. Very common. Why? Because students are very comfortable talking about their challenges, their setbacks, and their failures. That is not the point of the essay. I want to be crystal clear here. Colleges are not interested in you essentially crapping on yourself. That is not the point. The point is, hey, let me tell you about a time in my life that was a real struggle, that I didn't know how things were going to turn out, that I was really kind of down in the dumps. That's this much of your essay. The rest of your essay is, how did I deal with it? How did I grow from it? Think of this as a balance between light and dark. Think of this as Star Wars for my Star Wars fans watching today. Are you a member of the Empire? Darkness, always a struggle, always suppressing. Are you a member of the rebellion? Are you trying to rise up? Are you trying to tell a positive story? Are you trying to sell hope? The problem with the second prompt is most of the time students get mired in telling the negative part. This happened, and then this happened, and my grades went down, and I was really depressed. And you've just used 60% of the space given in this application essay to crap on yourself, to say, I'm not good at something, I'm not powerful, I'm not strong. And then you reserve this little space at the end, oh, but I conquered it and I'm all better now. What's the impression your readers are going to be left with? That's the question you're trying to actually answer. When someone gets done reading that essay, this complete stranger who owes you nothing, what are they going to walk away with? Are they going to walk away thinking, wow, this is a person who probably needs help? Is that the kind of thing that's going to get you into a competitive or highly competitive school? Never. Never. It's not about how much struggle existed in your life. It's about how much conquering you have done based on your adversity, if you're going to answer that question. Remember, the beauty of the common application is you're only choosing one main essay, so choose wisely. The other thing that I want to just kind of generally say about essays as a whole is if you're given 2 or 3 different questions within a prompt, do make sure you answer all of them. There is sort of a technical merit to this process. And if you tell this beautiful story, but you went off in a direction that had nothing to do with anything, that's part of the problem as well. You need to be able to identify what the prompt is and actually answer the whole thing. I want to bring one more to the table. Number 4 is a new prompt. It says, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? This is another great example of where is the focus supposed to be in your essay. The first question says, reflect on something someone has done for you. So the catch is, when you start writing this essay and you spend the first 60 or 70% of the essay talking about the deed of an other, and then 20 or 30% or 35% of your essay is about how it affected you, you miss the point. The point is not to admit your friend or your parent or your neighbor. They're not applying. You are. So a small percentage of the essay is about what this person did that affected you. You have to set the essay up. But the point of the essay is not about them, it's about you. So the focus is, how did I take the ball and run with it? How did my life change in a positive way because of this person? And then frankly, what have I done to take that message and move it forward for others? Now you're getting somewhere. Now think about the impression that is different between the first example and the second. In the first example, I read the essay and I'm like, wow, Johnny, who provided this great support for you, is really a really upstanding young man. I would love to have someone like Johnny apply to my school. You, on the other hand, I didn't learn that much about. Denied. In the second example, sounds like Johnny did something really great and he changed someone's life, but the life that was changed was yours. And how you changed is really interesting, and how you took that momentum and affected others is inspiring. That's the kind of person I want on my campus. Now we're getting somewhere. So be mindful of these little tools. Remember that your story is about how you affect another person and how that effect relates back to you as a human being. How do we feel about you? Yes, again, there is a technical merit to these essays. If you write poorly, that's not going to work. So fortunately, you have people like Lindsay and Trevor and me who can help with the grammar and the syntax and some of the word choice issues. And we can provide some commentary and some feedback that will help you arrive at these conclusions. But ultimately, writing with technical proficiency is only part of the story. making sure that instead of using the comma, you use the semicolon in that particular spot. That's really where it works best. That's not the reason you're going to get into a highly selective school. You're going to get in because they see you as a perfect student. Great grades, great curriculum, great test scores, great essays, great extracurricular activities, great letters of recommendation. So you got to get all the pieces right when you aim at the top of the food chain. Again, be mindful of your time. It used to be an ally. It is rapidly becoming an enemy as you start to look at these deadlines. For many of you who are applying early action, most of you have an 11/1, a November 1 deadline. That is a month and a week from now. 5 weeks. It's going to go by awful fast. So plan your day out, build in time for writing, build in time for editing, just like it was a homework assignment. I know you're busy. I know you have a lot going on, but if you get this part wrong, it's all for naught. Rushing to get that 11/1 deadline, as Lindsay pointed out, is a mistake. You are far better off pushing that deadline to regular decision and actually giving your best work and at least having a chance of getting in, versus you do crappy work, but you turned it in early because you just don't want to deal with it anymore. You virtually assured yourself no success, unless you're applying to a school where your curriculum and your grades and possibly your test scores are good enough to get you in without the essay. So again, consult your counselor, whether it's Lindsay or Trevor or me. We're going to be able to help you with this process. I hope this was helpful. Lindsay, back to you.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take you through the common application. There were a couple questions on here with regards to recommendation letters. Okay. And that is something I'm going to show you on the program here. But also, so question was, are the rec letters going to be printed or are they virtual? And then along with that is, are they being submitted by students or are they being submitted directly by the teachers? Okay. So the recommendation letters are going to be done virtually. Nowadays, they're not mailed in to the colleges. Okay. So within the common application itself, we're going to see a section where we can invite recommenders, or if it's linked to Naviance, they're going to do it that way as well. And then as for who is sending them, again, it's going to be the teachers. Typically, they are not allowing students to read the recommendation letters. So there's something on the common application that you sign called the FERPA, which is you're pretty much waiving your right to review any letters that are sent on your behalf. Okay. So the one thing that I do tell students when it comes to this is I've had a couple students say, well, I'm not sure if this teacher would actually write me a good letter. If that's the case, you should not be requesting it, okay? Because again, you're not going to be able to read it. There are some teachers out there that would say, hey, read my letter, let me know what you think. Do you want me to add anything? But I would say 99% of teachers are not allowing students to read the letters, okay? Now, for the personal, when maybe it's from an employer or a coach or a volunteer supervisor or like a music teacher, they're a little bit more flexible and they actually allow students to read the letters, which again, it's fine if you do it. But you are technically signing a form on here saying you are not reviewing anything. So it's not like they're going to find out if you've read your letter, it's okay. But you just need to keep that in mind, as you are not going to be reading the recommendation letters that are sent, and everything is going to be done virtually because it's a way for you to keep track of who has submitted and when they did it. So that's what's nice about everything being online now with the applications, is you can actually see when forms are done. Okay. So now I am logged into the common application. This is what it's going to look like for everybody when you have created your account, but you have not yet added a college. Okay. So in order for you to add a college to the common application, you're going to go ahead and go to college search. Okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add USC for now. Okay. So once you search for the school, you're going to go ahead and click the little plus sign on the left-hand side that says add college. And then now once we go to the dashboard, we're not getting the welcome message anymore. This is just, you're going to be your list of colleges. Okay. There is no deadline set right now. Okay. I'm going to take you through the individual school questions once I go through the main Common App portion. All right. But you do want to go ahead and start adding all of the schools that are part of Common Application that you're applying to. Okay. For now, if you just want to follow along with me and add USC, that's perfect. That way you can follow along when I go through the actual questions for the school. Now for the main Common App, okay, there will be some sections here that I have marked off with check marks just because I filled them out ahead of time to be able to move things along. Okay. But for the main Common App, this is the portion that goes to every single Common Application school that you apply to. So you are not changing information once you submit it to one college. Okay. So as you go down here, it's just asking for basic personal information. Okay. So first name, middle, last name. Some students do have different names that they may go by as well. What's important here is when you're filling out your application is you want to use your legal name. So your name that's going to be reported on like official documents. So school records, along with maybe College Board, ACT. Okay, so you want to go ahead and make sure that is accurate. All right, and then as you go through here, one question that they do have is, have you used any other names? This is really like if you actually had like a name change. Okay, if you officially changed your legal name and maybe you have old records in another name and it hasn't been changed. Okay, so you want to go ahead and mark those off. They're going to ask basic information about pronouns, gender. Okay, so very straightforward. This section isn't too confusing. You're going to be entering in like your permanent home address. Okay, for those of you that have divorced parents, you're going to be using the parent whose financial aid information you're going to be using and that you live with. That's who you want to put down for your permanent home. Okay. For alternate mailing address, maybe you use like a PO box for your mailing. You could put that in if you want, but otherwise it would just be your permanent home address. Okay. So contact details, again, they're just going to want phone number. If you want to list your home and your mobile, you can. If you want to provide them with parents' phone number, you can as well. They aren't typically calling you or texting you. There could be some schools, like as we go through the individual school section, they are going to ask you if you want to allow like text messages be sent, and those could just be like simple reminders. Okay. So just go ahead and make sure you're putting down your accurate phone number. And then again, basic information about demographics, male, female, if you're part of armed forces, Hispanic, Latino. Okay. Now, one thing that I did check off here that I want you guys to be aware of is I did just mark off American Indian or Alaska Native. And now the reason I marked this off is they're going to ask you about your tribal identity or affiliation. Okay. If you are marking down that you are American Indian and you're putting down your tribal identity, they are going to want proof from you. So you need to make sure that you have some type of tribal document showing that you are actually affiliated with that group. Okay. And that's going to be your opportunity to do that. And then again, so based off of what you're indicating, they want to know if you put white, what your white background is. Okay. Language. Okay. So a lot of students do this wrong when they're filling it out. They want to know how many languages you are proficient in. Now, maybe English was your first language. So what you're going to go ahead and indicate for English is you would check off all boxes if that's the case. So first, speak, read, write, spoken at home. Now, a lot of you take foreign language in school, or you're taking it even outside of school to expand upon that. I selected Spanish as an example. You can be proficient in it in certain areas, but not others. So what I wrote here was, okay, I can read and write. Maybe you don't speak it, it's not your first language, and it's not spoken at home. That's perfectly fine. But you don't want to lie and say you're proficient in the language when you aren't. But you do have the opportunity to select certain areas where you are proficient based off of the language you've selected. Okay. If it's strictly English, that's fine. Then you're going to select English only. Okay. Now, geography and nationality. So they want to know, for example, like what country you were born in, city of birth, what state you were born in. Okay. The number of years that you've lived in the United States. Obviously, if you were born in the US, it's going to be whatever age you are currently. And then your citizenship status. So here they have a few different things, okay, to choose from. Most of you are US citizens or maybe dual citizens. Okay, so you're just going to mark off whichever applies to you. And then social security number. It's really important that you put in the correct social security number here. Now, they do indicate that it's required if applying for financial aid via the FAFSA. So for those families who are applying for financial aid or that we're working with on the FAFSA, it has to match whatever we are submitting with the FAFSA form. So social security number, that's the way they link your admissions application with the financial aid documents. You want to ask your parents for the social security card and then just keep that number safe and write it down, because if it doesn't match, then they can't link the account. So it's important this is correct, right? So double check that when you're going through your application. Now there's the common application fee waiver. Okay. So they're asking, do you feel that your financial circumstances might qualify for an application fee waiver? If you're going to select yes, there are different requirements that you must meet in order to be eligible. Okay. And now what they're doing is they will have like your college counselor at school that can verify this. So maybe you've taken the SAT or the ACT and you've had a fee waiver for that. You would actually be eligible for a fee waiver for the common application itself too. Or if you're on like free or reduced price lunch, for example. So they're indicating all the different boxes that you could check off in order to determine if you are going to be eligible for a fee waiver. Not every student is. Okay. Now we're moving on to the family section. So again, this is just very basic information. They want to know what your parents' marital status is. Okay. They want to know who you live with. So if your parents are married, you're going to go ahead and indicate both parents. Now, if your parents are divorced, again, like I had mentioned, you're going to indicate the parent whose financial aid information you're going to be using that you live with as your primary parent. Okay. So I'm going to leave it on here as married. And then they're asking you if you have any children specifically. Okay. Basic information about parent one and parent two. Okay. Mother, father, are they living? What's their prefix, their name? You want to fill this out in as much detail as you can. Okay. So email address, they want to know phone. Now, then we come to occupation and education level. Okay. There's a lot of different options here for occupation. Education level is the one that we want to look at here. So right now I have it indicated as graduated from high school. Okay. A lot of your parents did get degrees like bachelor's degrees, master's, doctorate. Okay. If your parent received a degree in another country but did not study here in the US, you can select graduated from high school. Otherwise, you need to go ahead and indicate what degree your parents. So if we want to say graduated from high school, for example, now they're going to start asking you what institutions they attended. So let's just say we select one for now. You're going to have to go through, you're going to need to look up the college, indicate the degree that they earned, and then they're going to ask you for the level of degree as well. Was it a bachelor's, a master's? What year did they graduate? So there's a little bit more detail needed if your parent did go to college. But again, they're just drop-down menus. They're very simple. You have to search for the college and provide the degree that they earned. Okay. You're going to do the same thing for parent two. Again, as you're going to go through, if you did mom first, you're going to go ahead and do dad here, or if both moms, both dads, you can go ahead and provide that information. Okay. I threw in an example here. So we looked up Northridge. They earned one degree, which was a bachelor's, and they received it in 1979. Okay. So again, it's just a drop down. It's not too hard, but you need to speak with your parents and get accurate information. Okay. Then they're going to ask about any siblings. So they want to know the age of the siblings, and then they will ask about education later on as well. Okay. And that's primary for them to just determine how many people are in the house. So again, they're going to link this form with your financial aid. Okay. Next, we have education. So what I want you guys to go ahead and do here is I want you to enter in your school, okay? I just deleted it so I can go through it with you. So what you're gonna wanna do here is we're gonna wanna click on Find School, okay? And then you can search. So I'm gonna indicate Thousand Oaks High School for now, right? And then you're gonna wanna go ahead and put in your date of entry. So what you're gonna do here is, for you guys, it would be 18, okay? Whether or not you started in August or September is based on your calendar. And then we're gonna go ahead and, if it's a boarding school, I don't think we have anybody at a boarding school, so you're gonna go ahead and indicate no. And then they wanna know if you did or if you will be graduating from the school. It should be yes, unless you know specifically that you are going to be changing high schools for maybe spring semester, okay? But otherwise you should indicate that you're gonna be graduating, okay? Next, what we've got here is your graduation date. So most of you are gonna be like May or June. Again, it depends on what your school calendar is, okay? And then if there was a change in progression, they're going to ask for that as well. It should be no change in progression, I believe, for all of our students, okay? I don't think anybody's graduating early. You're not going to be graduating late. If you took a semester off or a gap year, they're going to want to know why. But again, I don't believe anybody did, okay? So other secondary high schools, they just want to know if you did attend other schools. So maybe you started off at Oak Park High School in your freshman and sophomore year, but now you're at Westlake High School. So if you did do that, you're going to have to mark off both high schools that you've attended, okay? For now, I do have it as 0, but if I were to select that I attended another high school, you're going to go through that similar thing. You're going to find the school, you're going to pick your high school date. So when you started at that first high school, when you ended, and then they want to know why you left the schools, okay? Another thing that students would put here is, let's say you are taking classes outside of your current high school. It's something like BYU, or you're doing Apex, you can go ahead and list that additional high school here, okay? And when it asks for provide details about why you left, you can just simply state that you were taking additional courses at that school that you were not able to take at your current high school, okay? Or I have students that take just summer classes through Apex. If that's the case, then you're gonna go ahead and put down that summer school was not being offered at my high school, therefore I took it through Apex, okay? It's just a very brief description. They just want to know why you attended another school. Okay. One question that I do have is, if I took Algebra 1 in middle school, would I put it here? You would not. They're only asking for secondary high schools, okay? Algebra 1 could be listed in another section, and I'll show you guys where to do that. Okay. There were a couple of questions about who you're living with. Let's see. Yes, Kylie, you're going to want to go ahead and put that address down. You can put it as an additional mailing address for you. And then Biblabby, the email ID is whatever you created the account with. That's the information that they're going to have on file. Next, we have colleges and universities. Okay, so this is a lot of students do this particular portion wrong. So here's, if you have ever taken coursework at a college or university, please indicate the number of colleges. A lot of students will actually put in 1 here because they think that their AP courses are college courses. I know you can get college credit for them, but what they're asking you for here specifically is, did you take a class at a college, like Moore Park or Pierce or Ventura or COC or Valley? So you're only answering this if you've actually taken a course at a community college, okay? So if we were to do that, it's going to give us the drop-down menu. We're going to find the school and we're able to indicate what college we took it through. So here we've got dual enrollment with high school. A lot of students take dual enrollment courses now. So like Thousand Oaks High School, for example, they allow students to take a statistics course that is dual enrollment. So you're taking it at your school, but it's through Moore Park College specifically. That's a dual enrollment, okay? Or maybe you did a summer program, let's say Johns Hopkins University, and you were getting college credit through that particular summer program, then you would mark off summer program. Some of you are taking courses at a community college strictly to get community college credit, not dual enrollment with your high school. If that's the case, then you would go ahead and indicate credit awarded directly by college, okay? And then they want to know what the dates were that you attended. If it's ongoing, maybe you've been taking community college courses for the last 2 years, then you're just going to go ahead and indicate, let's say we did August of 2019, and then the end date could be maybe end of spring, for example, okay? So it just depends on the student. And then you are not going to be earning a degree, it's just you took courses, right? One question I did get here was about other secondary schools. OFL, which is Opportunities for Learning, would be listed under the section for additional schools, okay? And then NEHA, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. If you're saying BYU, the actual college, then you're going to need to list it under colleges and university if it's not BYU independent study. Okay. All right, I'm going to go through some of these courses just at the questions at the end that are specific to you guys and get back to you just in case. Okay. So moving on, next we've got grades. Okay. So they want to know about your graduating class size. It's approximate. It doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes this number is listed on your transcripts. Other times you may just need to speak with your counselor and see what your graduating class size is. Okay. And then for class rank reporting, not every school ranks. So you can go ahead and indicate none if that's the case. Otherwise, again, they do typically report your class ranking on your official transcripts. If you don't know, you can also speak with your counselor. Class rank could be help determine merit aid that you may be eligible for, because there are certain scholarships where they may say you need to be in like the top 10% of your class, for example. But if your school doesn't rank, it's not going to affect your admissions decision specifically, because you can't help it that your school doesn't rank. But be sure to speak with your counselor if you don't know what that is. Then we have GPA scale reporting. Okay, so most of you are going to be either on an unweighted or a weighted. So scale of a 4 is going to be your unweighted, and we're going to list your unweighted cumulative GPA, or you could report it on a weighted scale of 5. Okay. One question that students do ask is, should I report my unweighted or my weighted? It completely depends on what your GPA is, to be honest. So when I review the application for my students, I will go through and look at your transcript and change it if it needs to be done. But let's say right here, as this is an example, let's say your unweighted academic GPA is a 3.7 on a 4 scale, and your weighted is a 3.9 on a 5 scale. 3.7 on a 4 looks better than a 3.9 on a 5. Okay, so that's where I would look through the GPA for you and let you know if you've actually put the correct one. But reporting the weighted isn't always the best. Maybe your weighted isn't that high on a 5 scale. Okay, so this is, you can always email me and I can take a look at it and let you know what you should be reporting. But as I said, when I review your apps, I'd take a look at this and tell you things to be changed. Next, we have current or most recent year courses. They want to know what classes you are enrolled in currently. So what are you taking for fall of 21, spring of 22? Okay. So here, depending on how many courses you have, you should probably have at least 4 or 5 being in your senior year. Okay. I just listed 2 for now. They want to know what your scheduling system is. All of you are on a semester system. If I remember correctly, I don't think we have anybody on a trimester or a quarter. Okay. Sometimes you'll pick quarter. They're not basing this off of progress reports. Like, when are you actually getting your report card, which is going to be fall semester and spring. So that would be on a semester system. Okay. okay? And then you're gonna go through the drop-down menu. So course 1 subject, you're gonna see here, they have all the different subjects, okay? And then where they're gonna list like other elective, for example, this is what I would put down as AP Psychology. It's a college prep elective, okay? So we're gonna list AP Psych. The course level is AP, and I'm gonna be taking it the entire year, not spring only, or not fall only, or not spring only. I'm taking it all academic year, okay? Now, course 2, same thing. So if we were to go through and let's select physics, we're taking, let's say, a physics CP, so just your college preparatory, okay? Course level is college prep. And again, the course schedule. Are you taking it all year, or are you taking it first or second semester, okay? So typically in your senior year, your history course, being government and econ, they're split semesters. Usually government is going to be for fall, and then economics is going to be for spring. So you should have those listed as 2 separate courses, indicating fall semester and spring semester rather than full year. Okay, so do make sure that you're putting everything for this academic year, because they want to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements. It's not only fall. Next, we've got honors. Okay, so for the honors here, they're specifically talking about academic achievements. All right, this is not a sports award like most improved player. What you would do here is if you ever received scholar athlete, which is based off of academics, you can go ahead and list that here. So honor roll, if there was like an academic excellence award, you can list that here. Again, scholar athlete, National Honor Society, CSF, those would actually be academic achievements. So you can go ahead and list them here, all right? And then you just need to select the years that you received them, so the grade level, and then also the level of recognition. So like honor roll, for example, is going to be a school level of recognition, whereas CSF, it's going to be state. National Honor Society is going to be national. So that's where you need to mark off the level of recognition. Okay. But again, do not put anything that is not academic. Okay. Next is going to be community-based organizations. Okay. This usually is 0 for anybody that's working on with a community-based organization. And then we have future plans. So they just want to know what your career interest is and the highest degree you intend to earn. This is not specifically the major you are applying to. We're going to be indicating the major under the school-specific questions. So they just want to know what you're interested in. Okay. I'm going to go through just a couple questions I've received for the education section. So one, let's see. Charlie, I think I answered yours about weighted or unweighted. It depends on what your GPA is. I believe for you, you'd be able to list your weighted. And then Sarvesh, for cumulative, when they're asking for GPA in the GPA section here, the common application scores are basing that off of your 9 through end of 11. It's not going to be the same as your UC Cal State. So you're going to go academic 9 through 11 GPA. Okay. And then Callista, you can list TA as your class for current or most recent year. That's fine. Okay. And then again, the courses need to be listed for the entire academic year. Journalism awards would not go into the academic achievement section here. You can list that within the activities section itself. Let's see, debate and honors. If you did receive any honors through debate, you can do that as well, because it is an academic achievement on that. Okay, I think that's all of them for now. All right, so next we have test taken. If you are not reporting any test scores or you do not want them to be considered, you don't have to include ACT or SAT here, okay? Now, what you can include though are AP exams. So once you've selected yes, if you're going to be self-reporting scores, you have the drop-down menu where you can select ACT, SAT, SAT subject tests, AP, IB. Okay. You are reporting any tests you have taken and any future ones. So the reason I wanted to bring that up is a lot of you have taken AP courses, but you're also going to be taking AP exams in May. If that's the case, you're going to go ahead and list that here. So I'll show you an example, just like if we're inputting SAT, but then I'm also going to include AP tests. Okay. So once you've selected that here, you're going to go ahead and scroll down, and it gives you the option to input SAT and AP tests. Okay. For those of you that are international students, you're going to go ahead and check yes to this if it applies to you. Again, we'll be reviewing that. So as we click continue here, for SAT, they're going to want to know how many past SAT scores you have. So maybe you've taken the SAT already, but you plan to take it again in November. They're saying how many passed. So we're going to go ahead and say 1. Okay. They want to know if it was with the essay originally, because they did offer that. So we'll just say no for now on this. And then number of future SAT sittings you expect. Some of you are taking it in October and November, others maybe just November. So you want to indicate how many and what your future testing is. So if we were to put, let's say November of 2021, now it comes to reporting your actual test scores. So with the SAT, you have your reading and writing, and then you have your math. What they're asking you for on the Common Application specifically is they're going to say, what is your highest evidence-based reading and writing? And then they want to know the date that you took that, and then your highest math and the date you took the math. The reason they're asking for this is there are colleges that will super score, meaning they will take the highest section from multiple test dates to give you the highest combined score possible. Okay, so if you've taken it 2 times, you're going to go ahead and write, if your scores were different, you're going to go ahead and indicate the highest here. All right. That means if you are reporting it, you need to have the test score sent from multiple test dates, not just the one individual. Okay. One question, which is a good one on here, is what if I don't want to send SAT scores to all of the schools? You still have to report them here if you're going to send it to even one school. Okay. The reason for that is when you're going through the school's individual questions, they are going to ask you, would you like your scores to be considered with your application? If you check no, then they're not going to look at them. You don't have to send official score reports. If you check yes, then they are going to consider your test scores. So if you're sending it to even one school, you need to make sure you fill out the testing section. Okay. Now, as we scroll down, we have AP. Okay. I pre-filled this with some information. So let's say we took the calculus BC test in May of 17, I received a score. So as you're scrolling through, you're going to see what the test dates are. So let's say I'm currently enrolled in government. I'm going to be taking that in May of 22. I'm going to indicate government and politics, but I am not entering in a score because it's a future test date. Okay. One question that I do get from students is, I'm not sure if I'm going to be taking in my AP test in May. For now, you can still report it. If you decide not to take it, that's perfectly fine. But if you are considering taking one of your AP tests in May, I would go ahead and do that. I also, when reporting these scores, I don't recommend that you report any that are a 1 or a 2. They're not considered passing. So your AP scores should only be a 3 or higher. One question, another here is, if we tell them you plan to take the test in the future, do we have to send the score if we don't like our score? So the way the AP exams work is they're using the grade that you earned in the AP course for admissions purposes. The score on the AP exam itself is going to determine if you actually get college credit at the school you decide on. So you are only reporting AP exam scores right now. You are not sending official score reports for AP tests until you've committed to the college. Okay. Because there's no point in sending official AP scores to all of the schools when you're only going to be getting college credit at the school that you end up deciding on. Okay. So For AP scores, it's simply just reporting it on your application. Another question is a 3 worth submitting, or is it too low? Some colleges do allow a score of a 3 in order to get college credit. So a 3 would be fine. I would report it on here. So as your 3, depending on how many tests you've actually taken, some of you may only have 2 APs, maybe you have 10 total. So you just need to fill it out, whatever's relevant to you. Next, we've moved on to the activity section. Okay. You should all be listing activities on your application. Okay. Now, some schools will give you the opportunity to submit a resume as well. Okay. But not every school does. So you need to be filling out the activity section. So here they're going to ask you, reporting activities helps colleges better understand your life outside of the classroom. There are a lot of different activities that could be listed. Do you have any you wish to report? You need to be checking off yes. And you could list up to 10 activities specifically on the Common App. Okay. Now, I do have it filled out again, but under activity type, you're going to see here, there are a lot of different topics that you can choose from. Okay. They have work paid. So if you actually work a job, maybe you're at Starbucks or Jersey Mike's or Tilly's, you're going to be able to put down your work experience. If you babysit and you're paid to babysit, that is considered work. So you can go ahead and list babysitting on here as well. Maybe you tutor, and not just for volunteer work, but you tutor and you're paid to do that. You can also list that as work. So you'll notice there are a lot of different options here. Okay. If you're a part of religious groups or LGBT groups, there's journalism at school. Perhaps you are participating or you have participated in an internship. Maybe you did like a foreign language, even outside of school. So I have some students that are studying languages on their own. If that's the case, you can go ahead and list foreign language. Okay. Family responsibilities. Maybe you're the eldest sibling and your parents are working all the time and you're at home with the kids. Maybe during COVID, you were helping them with all of their virtual classes and you're helping with homework. You run the errands, you do grocery shopping. You can put down family responsibilities here if you do have a lot of family responsibilities. Okay, maybe that takes away from you being able to participate in other activities. So there's a lot. What I do recommend that you do is you're going to go through your resume. You're going to mark off the activities that are most important to you because you are only allowed to list 10. All right. For those of you that don't have more than 10, then you're fine. You can list everything that you have. For the others, maybe you have 20 different activities. Go through, mark off what is most important to you. The other thing is you can number these in the order that you prefer. What I would do is, again, what is most important and what is most recent. So sometimes students may have participated in an activity in 9th grade only, and that's it. That shouldn't be on the top of the list. Okay. So here, if they're asking for activity type, I went ahead and indicated soccer. They want to know position or leadership description. So we put varsity captain, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Organization name, I simply just put Thousand Oaks because I'm indicating it's varsity soccer for Thousand Oaks High School. If you played club as well, you can list that as a separate activity and do athletics that are not involved in high school. So some of you don't play sports for your particular high school, but you do play travel ball. You can go ahead and indicate that here. These aren't activities that are strictly at school only, it's outside as well. Okay. Describe the activity. So our team won CIF champions all 4 years. While playing, I earned scholar athlete each academic year as well as MVP. Very, very brief description. The Common App does not allow for much. You're going to see here, its max characters is 150, not 150 words, 150 characters. So I do tell students, try to be as precise as possible, but if you can do complete sentences, I recommend it. Okay. So here we're able to indicate participation for grade level. So what years you participated, timing of participation during the school year, all year. And the way they ask for hours on here is how many hours per week did you participate and how many weeks per year? Okay. And then if you do want to participate to an activity like this in college, you can say yes or no. You don't have to, it's fine. Okay. But as you scroll through, you're going to be able to put in all your different activities. Okay. Next, we have writing. Okay. So for the writing, what they're going to do is they give you the option of the 7 different prompts that you could choose from. You're going to mark off which one you're answering, and you're going to simply copy and paste it. Okay. Now it is 650 words maximum. You're not going to be able to submit if you're over. Next, we have additional information. So this is where you can talk about COVID-19, if it's had long-lasting impacts, or if there's other details or circumstances you want to list here as well, you can. Not everybody has something to write. It's optional. You don't have to fill it in. Okay. So on this one, like let's say you suffer from like anxiety or depression, and maybe there was one semester where you really did not do well and you have a reason for that. This is your opportunity to explain that if it was not already written about in your main essay. Okay. But just remember, you do not have to fill this out. It's optional. Okay. So now as we click continue, what we're going to do here is this is the courses and grades section. Okay. USC, because I've added them, they specifically require it. There's some schools that don't, but if you do have a school that requires it, you need to fill it all out. So this is where having your transcripts in front of you is important. You want to have that copy. Now we're going to indicate, yes, we can access the transcripts. And then as we click continue, we're going to start entering in our courses and grades. So if we go through edit 9th grade, the drop-down menu is going to give me my high school that I entered in. Then you're going to go through your school year, okay, your grading scale, A through F, and schedule of semesters. What you're going to do here is we're going to be able to enter in our subject. Okay, so for now, I go ahead and enter in English. You're going to put in your course name. It's the course name as written on your transcripts. Make sure you copy it directly as it is. Okay, then they want to know the course level. Is it regular? Is it normally what you're going to be coming up with here is it's going to be regular, it's going to be advanced placement, college prep, or dual enrollment. There could be honors. So IB, but like Regents, intensive, gifted, GCSE, enriched, most of the students out here aren't taking levels, that particular course level, but make sure you are looking through the drop-down menu and you're selecting what applies. For mine, I'm doing English 9 AB as regular. And then I'm entering my first semester grade and my second semester grade. The common application does allow for pluses and minuses, so you want to indicate that if that's what's on your transcript. If you are on a semester system, nothing needs to be entered in under final because you're only semester 1 and 2. For credits, same thing. You're going to indicate the number of credits that you earn for those courses. Okay, so for the semester credits here, typically it's 5 for each. That's what I'm seeing on most transcripts from our students, but it could be maybe only 0.5 semester credits and then totaling 1. So it depends on what's on your transcript again. Okay. And same thing here, we're going to go through and list all of your courses. Each time you do a new one, you're just going to go ahead and select add a course, and it's going to allow you to fill this up. Okay. This was for 9th grade. Now we need to go through and we need to do 10th grade. You need to do 11th grade. Now for 12th grade, this is only if you have already earned a grade for your current semester. Most of you have not, okay? So you technically wouldn't have anything here if you haven't received any fall semester grades yet. This isn't asking you what courses you're enrolled in, just do you have a course and have you earned a grade? So keep that in mind because you already listed your courses somewhere else. Okay. Now, as we click continue again, you're going to see a section that says other courses. This is where you're able to list middle school and summer. You won't have any post 12th grade for you guys, but middle school and summer. Okay. Now, when you're looking at these, a lot of students get very confused. Okay. So if we're going to edit the courses here, you are not going to be able to enter in your middle school. You're going to be listing it under high school, but for school year is you're going to indicate whatever it was that year was applied to the grade. So if it was you took Algebra 1 in 8th grade, we're going to go ahead and say it was the 2017-18 school year. You're going to list your grading scale. And let's say we're going to do math. I'm going to go ahead and say just algebra. So we're going to say Algebra 1. It was regular, the grades we've earned, and then whatever the credits were. Now, you only need to list your middle school classes if they are on your actual high school transcript. A lot of you will see that you maybe have Algebra 1 or Geometry or maybe Spanish 1 on your transcript. So that's where you're going to list these if it actually shows up. Okay. So that's the courses and grades section. I would say this is probably the most time consuming and most confusing part of it. So you'll just want to go ahead and read through everything, have your transcripts in front of you. All right. Question that I have, let's see. Courses and grades section where we submit college transcripts as well. No, your counselor submits your transcripts for you. This is for them to get a preview of what your transcript is going to look like so they can start reviewing your application if they don't require a copy of your transcripts. Okay. Another question is in the COVID section, can I explain how COVID restricted me from doing certain extracurriculars? Or does it have to be about something that drastically impacted my life? If COVID did stop you from doing all of your extracurricular activities and you're lacking in that area for the last year or so, you can indicate that, okay? That would be perfectly fine. And then another question that we have here is for international. You can go ahead and indicate the course level is going to be NA because we are going to be indicating that you're an international student. Okay. And then another question is, after you've submitted the Common App, can you still add colleges? Yes, you can, because the colleges, you're just going to answer the individual colleges section, and then the Common App will already be ready. Okay. Okay, I'm going to continue moving forward, and I'm going to get back to you guys with the other questions you have in individual emails so I don't keep everybody on here. Okay. Now, once you've done the main Common App, you do have to go and do school-specific questions. Again, I put USC on here, but you're going to have your entire list of colleges. Okay, so USC, once I've selected it, now you need to go in and you need to click on the question section. This is your chance to tell the school when you are applying, what major, etc. So preferred start term is going to be fall of 22. Preferred admission plan is regular decision. One thing I want to mention about USC, they don't do early action. Their regular decision is in January, but they do have a priority scholarship consideration deadline of December 1st. If you want to be considered for the most amount of merit aid, you need to submit your application by December 1st. It's not an option they give you when you do the drop-down menu. So make note of that if you are applying to USC. Okay. Do you intend to use school-specific fee waivers? Again, you're going to need to go through these and indicate if any of them apply to you. Otherwise, you're going to select not applying. Okay. Do you intend to pursue need-based aid? So this is us submitting the FAFSA. So if you want to apply for need-based aid, you're just going to say yes. Okay. And then this is where they're going to ask you if you want your test scores considered. So remember, in the testing section, if you're going to be submitting scores to at least one school, we have to report them. But for each individual school, you're allowed to say whether or not you want your scores to be looked at. So here, I'm going to say I do not want my SAT or ACT being considered. Okay. Then they have religious preference. Academics, this is where you're able to indicate your first choice major. Okay, so you're going to want to go through and see all the different options that they have to offer. Okay. And then they also give you a second choice major. Most schools are going to give you a primary and a secondary. You're not selecting minors, it's just majors. Okay. And then if there is a pre-professional emphasis that you want, so if we have like pre-law or you want to go pre-med or pre-physical therapy, you can indicate that. Again, it's not a specific program you're applying into, but it's a department within the school that'll help prepare you. Okay. Next, we have contacts. So if you want to be contacted via mobile phone, you can go ahead and say, yes, you consent to be contacted, and then you'll enter in your phone number. They're not going to spam you with a bunch of stuff, but they might send you like alerts and reminders. Okay. Next, we have family. So for family, what they're doing is they want to know if you have any siblings that are also applying the same year, if you've had any relatives that have ever attended, or relatives that are employed by SC now. Okay. This is going to be a common question you're going to find for most schools. Okay. Next, we have disciplinary action. Again, you're going to find this question for a lot of schools with their individual. They just want to know if you've had any disciplinary violations, or you may also find where they talk about being like convicted of a misdemeanor or felony. They're just simple yes or no answers. Okay. So that's the question section. Now that I have indicated when I'm applying, I can go back onto the dashboard and it's giving me the specific deadline. Okay, it didn't show it before. You need to tell them I'm applying fall of 22, and if you're doing early action or early decision or regular, and then your deadline will pop up for you. Now, after the question sections, you do need to go into the recommenders in FERPA. And what this does is this is the FERPA release authorization right here. When you log into your account, you're not going to have a check mark next to it yet. You're going to have to go through the process. And this is what it looks like. Okay. So they just are telling you again, you're waiving your right to review confidential letters of rec. So you're going to go ahead and say, I've read and understood the FERPA. As you continue, you're going to acknowledge that every school can send documents on your behalf. You waive your right to review the recommendations and supporting doc, and you understand that your waiver pertains to all colleges that you're applying to. And then you simply just type in your first and last name and the date that you filled this out. Okay. Now, next we have the counselor, teacher, and if they allow it, other recommenders. So here you're going to see if we're inviting recommenders. Now, this one is being done directly through Naviance because TO is part of it. So you're going to see that they have the schools using Naviance for transcripts and school reports, and then the teachers are doing it that way as well. So what you need to do is on Naviance, when you're logged into your program, you are going to go ahead and click on colleges I'm applying to, and then you have the opportunity to link your Common App with your Naviance. Okay. So again, go on to Naviance, click on colleges I'm applying to, and then it's going to give you a section where you can link the two accounts. That's how you're going to go through with this. All right. Now, there is a writing supplement for USC. If I click on questions under the writing supplement, what you're going to see here is they have additional essays you have to answer. So like I'd mentioned, some schools, you have just the main Common App. Others, you have additional questions. Okay. Now here it's respond to one of the following prompts. It's a 250 word limit. You're going to select which question you're answering, and you're going to simply copy and paste your answer in here. Okay. Next, we have describe how you plan to pursue your academic interests and why you want to explore them at USC. This is that why our school question I had mentioned is really important. You need to be specific as to why you want to attend their school. Talk about research opportunities, internships. Maybe there's a certain professor that you want to learn from. Okay. And then they do have an optional question here. It's not going to apply to a lot of you, but starting with beginning of high school, if you've had a gap year, they want to know why. Okay. Then there's some fun questions. Describe yourself in 3 words. What's your favorite snack? Best movie of all time. It's a way for them to get to know you a little bit. Okay. So these are the supplemental essays that may be required by some schools also. Okay. Now I did want to add one more school in here real quick to show you guys the recommender section. Oops. So if we did Chapman. Okay. Now for Chapman, if I go back to the dashboard and I click on Chapman here and go to the recommenders and FERPA section, you're going to notice they have the counselor, they have the teacher, And then they have other recommender. So I had mentioned earlier, not every school allows an other or personal recommender. Right here, we're going to see Chapman. It is not required, but you are allowed one. You can submit an arts teacher, clergy, coach, college access counselor, employer, or other. Okay, so these are the options that you have to submit for a personal recommendation. The way you're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and click on invite other. You're going to provide their email address. They want to know the relationship. So let's say I wanted to do a music teacher. I'm going to click on arts, give them first name, last name, and then we're going to say yes, that we would like this recommender to complete a recommendation for Chapman. Okay. And the way it works is once you've invited them, then they're going to get an email directly from the Common application so that they can submit the letter on your behalf. Okay. Right. So that's the way you're going to do this, because others and personals aren't normally linked to Naviance if that's what your school uses, like employers or coaches. So you have to invite them, as I just showed you. Okay. So that is going to be the main Common application. I will be sending out the webinar, and I'm going to also provide you with a copy of the PDF so you guys have all of that information. Okay. But I do recommend, since it's fresh in your mind, going in and trying to fill out some of your application today. Right. And then what I'll do with that email is any questions that I didn't have a chance to address on here, and some that are they're student specific. I'm going to go through and I'll go ahead and get those answers sent over. And for some of Rob's students, I'll go ahead and have him respond to you as well so that you guys have that. Okay. But otherwise, I want to thank you all for joining and taking time. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.